Today in Harvard Square, we're off to visit a site associated with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King was born in Atlanta in 1929. The grandson of a prominent minister and the son of another, his religious upbringing caused a sense of rebellion in him which lasted until his junior year at Morehead College. Though he decided to attend seminary, he took a decidedly more liberal stance to religion than his strict father had, drinking beer and playing pool while simultaneously excelling at school. Upon completion of seminary, he applied to several colleges for a doctoral degree, finally settling on Boston University. While there, he would meet Coretta Scott, and they were married in 1953. While still writing his doctoral dissertation, he accepted a position as a minister in Montgomery, Alabama at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. When Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her bus seat to white passengers, a boycott of the Montgomery bus system was organized. As a well-to-do, talented, young, influential, but relatively unknown figure with no baggage to attack, Martin Luther King Jr. was elected to lead the boycott. After 382 days of walking to work, suffering abuse, death threats, and anxiety for the safety of black families, the boycott enjoyed a victory as repeated court cases declared separate but equal to be unconstitutional. Montgomery's buses were finally integrated in 1957, the same year Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, and 60 other pastors and ministers founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or SCLC. The SCLC began to organize meetings throughout the South to discuss treatment of African Americans by local governments and to register black voters to mobilize their votes against these systematic problems. After a trip to India in 1959, Dr. King, already a great admirer of Gandhi's methods from a distance, became convinced that a nonviolent approach would be the most effective and only way forward to achieve equal rights for black Americans. In 1960, when a group of students in Greensboro, North Carolina sat at segregated lunch counters, refusing to leave until served, the SCLC organized meetings with Greensboro sit-in leaders to help the movement spread throughout the South. Within a few months, nearly 30 Southern cities declared segregated lunch counters in violation of the law. His arrest in 1960 at an Atlanta lunch counter led to an intervention by John F. Kennedy, then in the midst of a presidential run. By August of 1963, the nonviolent movement had made dramatic changes throughout the South. Generations of people who had experienced slavery and Jim Crow laws began to dare to believe that change was, in fact, possible. When 200,000 people marched on Washington, D.C., Martin Luther King would verbalize the sentiment with one of the most famous speeches in human history.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
The following year, he advised President Johnson on the passage of the Civil Rights Act, and in the fall, won the Nobel Peace Prize. In 1965, he was invited to speak in Cambridge in Memorial Church at Harvard. President Nathan Pusey would host Dr. King, unaware of the fervor he would cause on campus as enthusiastic supporters came out of the woodwork to support and congratulate him. The following day, Dr. King would lead his first March of Freedom in the North, joining a group of protesters stretching nearly a mile, marching from Roxbury to the Boston Common. As police and government response to the gatherings and marches throughout the South became increasingly violent, with police dogs released, fire hoses turned on families and children, and severe beatings administered, Dr. King famously responded with acts of civil disobedience and prayer, famously kneeling at the Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, rather than confronting the police blocking the bridge.
Let us bow in prayer. And straight and black and white people will live together right here in Alabama and in the black belt as brothers. And the lion will lie down with the lamb.
After advising President Johnson once again on the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Dr. King was asked to stay silent on other matters of politics, including the increasingly unpopular buildup of troops in Vietnam. It soon became clear that the economic disparities of those serving overseas also exposed a racial disparity. While attempting to keep the focus of his message on racial justice, Dr. King could not keep silent in the face of growing injustice of the war in Vietnam. In April of 1967, he made his first speech condemning the war. Due to speak again at Harvard just 2 weeks later, Harvard rescinded his invitation. Cambridge's Christ Church immediately extended their welcome to him, allowing him to make his anti-Vietnam speech within their doors. His words, "There comes a time when silence is betrayal," echo loudly today, when all Americans are taking a stance either for or against racism. Dr. King's assassination in Memphis, Tennessee would come less than 1 year later. In only 39 years of life, Martin Luther King Jr. had moved the needle so dramatically that people suffering under injustice in all corners of the world continue to use his methods of nonviolence and his message of hope to inspire change.